Hey everyone, happy Friday! Finally, after working for 5 days, it's been tough. So what's this video about? Actually, I filmed this a while ago but haven't had time to edit it yet. The main thing I want to talk about is that last month I went to Japan for more than 10 days, but I only stayed in Kyoto. Now, when you think of Kyoto, what comes to mind? For me, I picture streets full of beautiful women in kimonos, lots of temples, flower towns, and those bridges you can walk across. Basically, the whole scenery is just gorgeous. This time, the place I'm talking about might be especially appealing to anime and manga fans. If you get a chance to visit next time, I definitely recommend it. So, this place is called the Kyoto International Manga Museum. Although it's not very big inside, you can see a lot of different things there. For example, there are interactive spaces you can experience, and on the second floor, there's a small exhibition hall where you can learn about the history of manga across different eras. They also talk about the representative works from each period. For people around my age, seeing these iconic works really brings back childhood memories. I hope everyone enjoys watching this video. Have you started watching it yet? So what does it really take to become a manga artist? As everyone knows, not every manga artist becomes successful. Of course, those who do make it can earn a lot of money, but for those who don't, people might not realize how tough their lives can be. In this manga museum, they also showcase the hardships that manga artists face and reveal just how much or how little they actually earn. Alright, I won't spoil too much. You'll find out when you watch my video. It's quite a long one. Have you watched it yet? Don't forget. Here at the renowned Kyoto International Manga Museum, let me give all of you a quick and comprehensive introduction. Alright, so the very first and most significant question that arises is, what exactly is manga in its essence? If we take a closer look at the history of Japanese manga, actually the people working in the Japanese manga industry are all artists. Every day they have to produce a huge amount of work to meet the demands of manga. If we look at the manga industry now from an international perspective, compared to before, these artists in Japan used to have to draw 19 pages of manga every week, and these 19 pages would be serialized in a publication called Shonen Jump. Is a magazine that comes out once a week every month, and it needs 20 manga stories as its content. In the early days, there were only 2 manga stories, but then as more people started reading, it increased to 8 stories. Later on, it became 15 stories, and then, yes, it kept growing. Eventually, there were 40 serialized stories, and then another 5 were added. So, let's keep looking. All right, so compared to other countries, the circulation and speed of manga in the early days was very fast. But what about the appearance? After all, since the post-war period, the printing speed, though, was still quite slow, and the profit from printing depended on the actual sales volume of the manga. You also had to see how well some of the serialized magazines were selling. In other countries, like France or Belgium, most of the work was done independently, with creators slowly publishing books to make money. For example, with Marvel, they would independently release a single book, which is different from Japan's Shonen Jump, where many stories are serialized together in one magazine.
Initially, it was American-style comics. For example, The Wandering Record #3 is actually from China, showing China also had its own comics. This story about the little cow unfolds slowly. I also have small collections. In the past, I had comics from Taiwan, Italy, Korea, and Hong Kong's own cultural comics.
Most Japanese comics, even now, are done in black and white. The reason for this, especially in manga, is to make the process faster and to keep printing costs low when producing in large quantities. This technique allows for mass production at a lower price. Later on, other methods were introduced. Expressing color through black and white is actually achieved by using many different layers and techniques to convey depth and emotion. They use different types of screen tones, even though everything is in black and white. For example, Western comics tend to look very flat in comparison. But Japanese manga gradually learned to use different gradients. Look at these screen tones. If you compare them to Western comics, the black and white looks really rough and kind of ugly, right? It just looks like a mess. But the Japanese ones are great. They have depth and layers, don't they? So why are manga books so expensive? It depends on the quality of the printing materials you use and the methods used for production and finishing. These factors affect the price of manga books. As the demand for higher and higher print quality increases, the price naturally goes up as well. Do you want to look like a character from Attack on Titan? Well, that's what cosplay is for. So, What about the medium network that extends from manga? We can see it. Manga can connect many aspects of society together. For example, Detective Conan started as a manga, but then it was adapted into videos and DVDs. Naruto, on the other hand, evolved into a musical culture, like a stage musical adaptation. For example, some manga have even been turned into opera-style performances, leading to the formation of supplementary troupes. Then take Yowamushi Pedal as an example. It became part of cycling culture and was also adapted into a movie. Attack on Titan, as we mentioned, has been turned into cosplay culture. And then this process of materialization, take Fist of the North Star, for example, it was also turned into a movie. Fist of the North Star is even getting a live-action film soon, and there are gambling machines, yes, gambling machines as well. All of these things have commercialized the entire manga circle. As we mentioned before, is cosplay really a form of manga culture expression? And of course, we have the most famous Dragon Ball by Akira Toriyama. They can be turned into all sorts of merchandise like Ranma wallets, pencil cases, lunchboxes, and so on. Earlier, I was slowly tracing back. Actually, when did it all start? We forgot to mention it. Here, we have manga from different eras. Today, I'll quickly go over them. When did each era begin? Let's do this quickly. Manga from 1912 up to 1945 were actually quite simple, mostly flat illustrations. You can see that many of them are like Aesop's fables or stories called fairy tales. Then moving on to 1945 and 1964, the main themes were about, well, the spirit of Bushido, samurai values. You'll notice that a lot of them revolve around that. Then some started to resemble detective or mystery novel series. So after 1945, after World War II, right? There were more different types influenced by Western cultural impact, and some were similar to superheroes of justice. They started to appear, right? Oh, Astro Boy also came out during this period, from 1945 to 1964. All right, the one I most want to see, I'm not sure how many there were. Hey, the boxing one, the one about boxing, that was from 1965 to 1968, right? What else was there during this period? A lot of them were related to sports and martial arts, right? Yes, in 1969, and then moving on to 1979. What works did we have in the 1970s? Starting from this time, there were some. Novels are also related if you think about it a bit more abstractly. Anyway, our favorite Doraemon appeared during this time. As for these comics from 1971, I don't think I've seen or read them, like this 1972 one by Go Nagai. This one is pretty gross, with people vomiting and smashing things, biting with their mouths, and heads that look a bit disturbing. These kinds of slightly more grotesque comics. Actually, did he mention this? Yes, he did. Even the Romance of the Three Kingdoms adaptations from that era were a bit shocking. Frank Bloodjack came out in 1973, that's right, and then it moved on to 1974. Some like Li Fuxing were also released here. Muscle Man was in 1979, and Ultraman Lock as well. Not sure about the ones after that. Those are from the 1980s. Oh, Dr. Slump is from the 1980s. This one isn't Touch Link. It doesn't seem to be Touch either, right? Maison Ikoku, that came out in 1980. And then Captain Tsubasa, that was released in 1981. What else is there? Touch was in 1981. And then in 1982, there were things like Southern Cross, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, and that's when Hayao Miyazaki started to rise as well. In 1983, there were things like Fist of the North Star. City Hunter was actually from 1983 too, this one as well. And then there's Orange Road in 1984. What was representative in 1985? What was the standout of 1985? Actually, Dragon Ball was from 1984. As for Tetsuya Chiba, that's this one, Kamen Riders Freeman. Then in 1986, there were things like Perfect Story. What about 1987? We see that Ranma came out in 1987. And 1988, which ones do I know? Starting from 1988, I'm not really familiar with these manga anymore. There really wasn't much in 1989. Moving on to 1990, what kind of books do we see? Yu Yu Hakusho, that really came out then. In 1990, Crayon Shin-chan also debuted. And as for this CM Lamp in 1990, I think this one is a bit like My Date with a Vampire, the Mashuling character, and also Sushi Chef Shota. I've heard of this one too. And in 1992, well, X-Play 1999 is another type of manga similar to Touch. And then there's Kindaichi Case Files. Not Boys Over Flowers, but Kindaichi, which was also adapted into a Japanese drama, The Kindaichi Case Files. In 1992, there was also Sailor Moon. And in 1993, On Mayoji, I've heard of it. And then what else? In 1994, there's Detective Conan, and what else? Rurouni Kenshin. In 1995, oh, there's Evangelion, and what else? In 1996, there's Hunter x Hunter and Yu-Gi-Oh! I know those. One Piece started in 1997, and as for 1998, I'm not familiar with those. Then in 1999, oh, the manga 20th Century Boys, which was later made into a movie that was also from 1999. From 2000 to 2005, I'm not really familiar with this type. Yeah, so what other manga came out after that? Hey, is Dragon Eagle that movie? Yeah, that's right. And Dodo Gen Sakura, did that become a Japanese drama? Turns out it was released in 2000. And also Dr. Koto, that should be the one starring Masato Sakai, right? I think it's this one. Yeah, all these movies came out around that time. All right, so that's the end of the introduction to the museum's timeline. So when it comes to drawing manga, how do they actually draw the lines for the so-called moving subjects? For example, these are called effect lines or impact lines. When there's a big action, they use these, I'm not sure if you've noticed, lines, dots, lightning, or flower-like patterns, and then gradually symbols. Inside, there are also things called mumu. And then, well, some are related to dialogue. It turns out there's a lot of thought put into it. How do they draw speech balloons? They look like balloons, but they come in different shapes. Some are called, for example, the ones that always feel like they're being cut off. What are they called? And UN calls them mark dog. So there are different ways of expressing this. When Japanese people draw manga, what about their different formats? Actually, the layout, how they arrange the panels, is influenced by this. If you look at their own manga drawing methods, they don't follow anyone else. It's based on their own research into how readers' eyes move when reading manga, and also the reading speed. They design these kinds of frames accordingly. This is different from the way European comics are made, because European comics are mainly created to produce a complete work, which might be a fully self-contained page. It's not like comics where the reader's eyes are guided to follow a certain direction, so this is a bit different. As for the characters' expressions, Sheik mentioned last time that each character's eyes, or even themselves, are influenced by their own historical backgrounds. As a bridge of communication between the reader and the creator, they need to share the same culture, a common cultural background. So things like body language or spoken words are used for this purpose. These 9 council members, they use facial expressions to represent everything. There are some very basic principles that you have to follow. Do you actually know how the money flows when a comic is sold? How does a comic artist make money? Can we really just look at it simply, thinking that once a comic is sold, the artist just gets paid? Today, I want to talk to everyone about the tough journey of a comic artist. Before they become famous, they keep talking about their salary, which is just a few $1,000s a month, and they still have no money. Money, money, money. Always wanting more money, hoping for more money, but it's always about money, money, money. For a comic artist who hasn't made it yet, who hasn't had a big hit, they rely on their own work, they hire 3 assistants, find a place to work, and maintain a good relationship with editors. After finishing their work, they take it to the printing house, they're constantly spending money, paying for transportation, and booksellers take a cut. If there are unsold copies, they can't just sell them all on the street and pocket everything. That's not how it's divided. They also pay printing costs, and then the publisher takes their share and splits it with 3 others. It's really tough. Just look at this chart and you'll see how poor they are. And don't forget, they support 3 assistants. After all the deductions, even as an assistant, at most you're left with only 5,000 or 6,000 Hong Kong dollars. How can you make a living on that? Of course, as a manga artist, there are also ways to make big money. That's if your serialized manga gets published as a standalone volume. Just look at these numbers. Some of these single volumes have sold over 100 million copies. If you can achieve that, you really do make a lot of money and you don't have to split it with anyone else. And of course, if your work can be turned into merchandise or linked products, then you can earn even more. I wonder how everyone feels after watching this. Actually, every manga and every character has an author. And in a way, life itself is like that too. Alright, recently what's been airing is Anpanman. Actually, I've really liked this character lately. The Anpanman drawn by Takashi Yanase. He actually pulls off his own head to feed others, which is quite shocking. Why is it like that? It's because Yanase, during World War II, truly experienced the pain of starving to the brink of death with nothing to eat. He felt that if, at that time, someone had been willing to share even a bite of bread with him, it could have saved his life. Deeply moved by this, he created Anpanman. His purpose in creating this character was for just that reason. He hoped that through his experiences, manga and cartoons wouldn't just be something simple, not just pure entertainment, but rather a way to teach children about helping others, sharing, and courage. Even something as small as a piece of bread can change the world and bring a bit of strength. Alright, I hope everyone enjoyed my video today. Bye bye.